Hi, I'm Wanda Steele, and welcome to Around Town. Our special guest today is Mr. Kent Bates, former news anchor with Channel 2. Kent, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Thanks. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Kent, where you're originally from. I know you're not a native North Carolinian.
No, but this is home now.
Okay.
My family and I moved here in mid-'94, and so it's been about 15 years ago that we moved here the first time, and working in television news at that time. Grew up out west, and so living in the South, with the exception of 2 years when my wife was in grad school in Alabama, this is the first time living long-term in the South. But we found when we first moved here the first time that it was a very comfortable and inviting place, and so it became our home really quickly.
Good. So we can claim you now.
I'm more than willing to say that I'm a North Carolinian.
Maybe you just had a Southern spirit all together to start with. And
I think there is a lot to be said for. I grew up in the mountains out west, and you know, there's a lot to be said for the way of life that I grew up with and the way of life that we experience here in the South. How laid back people are, how friendly people are. There's a little different drawl here than there is out there.
What are you talking about?
Exactly, you know, and that's one thing I haven't really picked up that much, but and that was partly because of the broadcasting. But I think those two are very similar, at least the Intermountain West and the South, as far as the types of people and the way things go in life. And so it was a very comfortable, with the exception of the heat, it was a very comfortable move for us.
Tell me about your family.
Family of 3 kids. My wife and I are fortunate enough to have 3 wonderful children. The oldest will be a senior this year in high school here. And we have a high school freshman this year, and then a 7th grader in middle school.
Okay.
So they're bunched right there in about 5 years, and all going through Guilford County schools, and very pleasant experiences. And you know, knock on wood, we'll have our first high school graduate next year. And,
oh wow!
And he'll move on to other things. I'm not ready to have that yet. I guess I'm not ready to admit that I'm old enough to have a high school graduate, even though all my friends from high school are already grandparents by now. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, are any of your kids interested in journalism or news in any way?
Not really. And it's kind of interesting because ever since I've been in this business, they were going to work with me on a regular basis and seeing what it was like. They liked seeing their dad on TV, but they never wanted to come on with me. They never wanted to do it themselves. They, too, what got me into the business was liking to know what's going on around town and sharing that with people. I just love being able to tell stories and facilitate that communication back and forth. They like to know what's going on, but they just don't want to be out there at all.
Right.
And even in print journalism, they're not really interested in that. They've got their interests in other areas.
Okay, well, to each his own, right?
Exactly. It's
okay.
amazing how different they can be.
That's right. Well, tell me what you're doing now in your life that you're no longer affiliated with in newscasting.
I'm looking for that next challenge. And as I mentioned, I love to tell stories and I love to communicate. And no matter what workplace I was in and no matter with whom I'm speaking, they say one of the biggest challenges that they face is the lack of communication. And that can be anything from, you know, employee to employee or business to business or management to employee or employee to management, or even thinking outside to, you know, customers. And so I want to help open up those lines and free up people's communications abilities.
Also, I understand you do a little bit of acting?
Oh, no.
No?
I just act like I like what I'm doing. No. No, I did, you know, in high school I did a little bit. And my first love was music. It wasn't necessarily the drama as much as it was being in the pit playing for the dramas. But a couple times, the thing I like to tell people is I never tried out for a play, yet I was in one at least every year in high school with a singing part or a major line part. But I was always so afraid to try out because I hated that rejection. I was always so afraid to try out that I wouldn't. And then they would get in the middle of the production and find out they needed somebody else. And so they'd always come to me and, oh, okay, well, if you need somebody, I'll find. But that way I never had to hear nope, you're not good enough to be our type thing. So I had the opportunity to be in a few plays in high school, and they were fun, and I really enjoy it. And I love going to theater now. And it's always fun. It's romantic to think, oh, how would I do up there? But, you know, I really, as much as people find it hard to believe, I'm kind of shy, and I'm an introvert. And so being up on stage is kind of contrary to my nature.
You know, your voice is so engaging. Do you ever do voiceover work or anything like that?
I do, and I've had the opportunity a little bit. I'd like to do more. And now that I'm not working in television, I have the opportunity if the need arises to do more of it. Contractually, I haven't been able to do it just because of the television issue for so many years and not being able to do commercial work. But that is something it's rather fun to do.
Do you like the production end of television or video work?
Well,
or?
I always worked on the air, and so we didn't do a lot of production. But on news stories, you've got to go out and you've got to shoot video, you got to do interviews, you got to come back and edit them. And when you're first starting out, you don't have editors and other people to do that for you, and so you do a lot of that yourself. And so for the last few years, I didn't have the opportunity to really do a lot of the production on the stories I did. I was there working hand in hand with the editors, but not really doing the editing myself. It is fascinating now, because I come from the day when, in radio, when we were splicing tape, using a razor blade and using tape to splice. And kids today have no idea what that concept's like.
Are you a computer person? I mean, do you like computers?
I like them.
They don't like me.
Well, I don't know if they like me either. It's fun to... It's fun. In fact, I was at a webinar yesterday talking about social media and the new things that we're doing with social media, and I like to foray into blogs and chats and Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. I had my first blog about 5 years ago. I started a blog, and then management found out that I had it, and corporate then found out from management that I had it, and so I got a call from corporate saying, being a personality on the air, you can't have a blog. Well, we can't tell you can't, but we highly encourage you not to. And so, it was a lot of fun. I was putting it up on, obviously I wasn't saying anything that was detrimental to the station at all. That was their concern, though, is that somebody on their own would be a rogue reporter. So I stopped that and then started blogging a couple years later when blogging was picking up on everywhere else. The station finally caught up. And allowed us to blog on the website as well.
It's been a pleasure having you with
Wanda.
us today. Thank you so much for coming
fun.
by to join us. You've been watching us today on Around Town, and thanks for joining us. Special guest Kent Bates, and we'll see you next time, Around Town.